But it wasn't, I guess, out of left field just because of, like...
It's just the cheese, man.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything.
Don't try and explain the cheese.
Just eat the cheese.
Just eat the cheese and enjoy it.
Yeah, put the cheese on your cracker.
Be happy that you chuckled and eat the cheese.
Hey, Toddo.
What's going on?
We got a podcast, The Buff and the Blazer. If I was a listener, where would I go to find more?
You can check us out on our website, thebuffandtheblazer.com. Drew over there writes a article that goes along with every single episode.
You can find all kinds of little extras on the articles, and you can listen to the podcast right there. Also, you can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And, of course, we're on Twitter at Buff and Blazer. Follow us there.
Get those clicks, people.
The Buff and the Blazer.
Welcome to the Buff and the Blazer, episode 27. I'm Drew, and as always, I'm here with my good friend, Mr. El Toddo.
What's going on?
How you doing, man?
Good?
Another one in the books forgot.
Yeah. Another one in the books. I'm a little disappointed in this one.
A little bit of a downswing, but not as bad as the last couple weeks that we've had. This episode,
We rebounded. No. We rebounded last week.
No. Yeah, but I mean, I think this one dips down a little bit after that high that we were on.
Regress to the median,
Yeah,
right?
just a little bit, but nothing like the other two before last week's.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, this episode we are talking about The King of Staten Island, directed by Judd Apatow and starring Pete Davidson. And this one was getting a lot of notoriety online and social media, and I don't know, it just seemed intriguing. And it's Judd Apatow; he's like attached to
Is it
every
Apatow
comedy of our.
or Apatow?
I've heard it both ways.
I vote for Apatow.
All right, let's go Apatow. He's been attached to like every modern comedy of our age.
Yeah, since like Superbad and 40-Year-Old Virgin.
Yeah. Those are
Basically,
some of
like,
my
every comedy ever.
right. So this was intriguing, just with the talent involved. But what did you think after your first watch?
So, a bit of a mixed bag. I was hoping for a really solid, slap you in the face comedy from start to finish.
Uh-huh.
And it was funny. There was good chuckle factor. But I knew it was going to have all of Judd Apatow's, like, heartwarming cheese all over it. And I could have gone no cheese on this and just gone straight ruthless comedy. Because I absolutely love Pete Davidson. Not just in this, but I've been a fan of him ever since he came around. He's funny on SNL.
Yeah.
And he has a really, really good stand-up that came out recently. So I've always been a fan of him. And then Bill Burr is like one of my favorite comics of all time, probably like number 2 or so behind Dave Chappelle.
Oh, sweet.
And so I was really excited. And they do have a lot of really funny lines in the movie. But what I was actually more impressed with was the level of acting that kind of came across in this movie.
Yes.
And that kind of caught me off guard.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was hoping for a really good comedy, and it was funny, but it was way more on the serious side than I expected.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
That's the cheese factor. So I was kind of a bit of a mixed bag coming out of the movie.
All right. Yeah, I was expecting more of like a slapstick, like crazy 40-year-old virgin kind of movie. And you almost could call this not even a comedy. It's almost not a comedy.
Totally.
It's almost like it's a drama.
Drama with some funny parts.
I mean, I call this like a dramedy almost, but there's a lot more drama going on than anything else. But Bill Burr, dude, I don't know what it is about comedians putting on their serious faces, but they do it so well.
Yeah.
It's like a seamless transition. Like Steve Carell is one of those actors too that just went from like 40-year-old virgin and then goes into like Foxcatcher or something like that.
There's a lot
It's-
of them, man. I mean, Robin Williams, the first time he did a truly dramatic role, everybody was like blown the fuck away.
Robin Williams, Tom Hanks, I know was like that.
Jim Carrey's had some really good serious roles.
Yeah, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, like,
And even Man on the Moon, which is kind of a funny role anyway, but he's insanely good acting in that movie.
yeah. So like, whenever I hear that a comedian is being cast in a serious role, I always it raises my eyebrows a little bit because I know a lot of them hit it out of the park. And like you, this film it took me by surprise because I wasn't expecting it to be so dramatic. Not that it's overly dramatic, but it gets into the weeds of the drama a little bit.
It's a little heavy.
Yeah, at times. But like you, I think the most impressive part of the film is the acting across the board, especially Pete Davidson. Like, I didn't expect him to have that kind of range. He's really good, and I love him on SNL too. Like, we'll talk a little bit about the story in a second, but I don't know. I didn't hate the film, and I dug some of you and I call it the wholesomeness of the story.
Yeah.
And like some of my favorite parts of the whole film was like towards the end, like the last third of the movie.
See, I'm the exact opposite.
Okay.
The first 2/3, I was like, yeah, and then the last third, I was just like, kept pausing, like, God,
Wow.
how much longer is this? I know where it's going.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to be as exactly happy,
Right.
warm your heart kind of story. I was just like, I don't care. I just want jokes and
Fair
funny.
enough. Fair enough. So yeah, overall, I think it was worth a watch. I guess I don't know if I'd recommend it for $20. 'Cause
Yeah,
you and
I was going to say. $20
you and I
is a
both
little
paid-
steep.
Yeah, it's a new release.
That's more than you would pay in a theater, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And we didn't even get it in IMAX.
No. I
But,
don't know if this is, the type of movie that has to be seen in the theater anyway.
I don't know about you, but I could use 70 millimeter footage of Pete Davidson's face. Like, just. Oh, man.
Got like
But yeah.
bags under his eyes the size of tractor tires on the big screen.
Oh, dude. Yeah, yeah. The size of your truck. Like. Oh, man. Not a bad film. Not a bad film. But let's talk about those first 2/3 of the movie for you. So, you really liked the kind of off-the-wall comedy parts in the beginning.
Yeah, I
like
wouldn't call it like off the wall.
It's not off the wall, but his character is so like larger than life in the sense that he doesn't give a fuck about anything. Which is, I mean, his character is super interesting for me. But
Yeah.
that part of the story, like watching that arc, kind of, I liked that he's sort of this eccentric dick that still has kind of like a shell of a heart, and then how that affects everyone in the story throughout.
Yeah.
But like, I should have wrote down every little nugget of dialogue or a one-liner that I just cracked up at.
Yeah, there's
like,
so many good little chuckle spots.
yeah, they're
throughout the
sprinkled
movie.
everywhere.
Yeah. And that's the only thing that kept me really engaged. But the way they introduce his character is like, his character, Scott, is pretty dramatic. Like right
Yeah.
at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like getting at like a mental health type of message, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And
for
with
sure.
how heavy the first scene is, you couldn't just stay that heavy the whole time. You got to bring the jokes. And that's where a lot of like the just little lifestyle parts of the movie became really funny to me.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the whole basement and smoking weed all the time and friends that are just complete idiots. Like all that part was really funny to me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, should we?
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So do we spill beans or do we hold back?
I mean, we don't have to spoil, but I guess we
You
can
can't
say
really
that this
spoil an Apatow movie. Sorry.
it's like a semi-autobiographical film, right? Sort of.
Kind
And like
of,
I watched an interview with Pete Davidson, and he on CBS, and he was saying like it's 75% like an autobiography.
Yeah.
And it's scary too, like that opening scene. He said he used to do that shit for real, like in 2017.
Yeah, yeah. That's why it's kind of like a. Remember how Honey Boy was like a bit of a weird, dark look into
Yes,
someone's life. This has that vibe too.
that's a great comparison, actually.
And I wonder if he like wrote it up when he got sober, because I know he's like gone into rehab or whatever. I don't know what he does. Last time I saw him, it sounds like he just smokes weed and does mushrooms and shit now, which is great. Better than drinking and doing
sure.
pills and shit. But yeah, it's kind of heavy. It kind of makes you uncomfortable right off the bat.
Yeah.
With how kind of damaged his character is.
Yeah, like there was a scene in the beginning where they're talking about they're joking about his situation and his dad not being there. And those kind of like caught me off guard, and I was like, "Oh man, that's pretty awkward." Like the way they're joking about it.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there like laughing along with it. You can tell there's like something that's really bothering him, even though he plays it off.
It's something that's probably super common throughout everybody, losing a parent.
Yeah.
And it's something that me and you can't relate to at all.
Right.
So I like actually thought about that while I was watching it. I was like, me and Drew don't probably have as deep of an emotional hit from this movie as a lot of people do, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And what, he was like 7 when it happened?
Yeah, and in like his real life story, right? His parents died, or his father died in 9/11.
Yeah,
Isn't
9/11.
that correct?
Yep.
Yeah, and that's some heavy shit that I can't relate to it in any way at all. So
yeah, and when
I
you're
don't
that
wanna
young
judge
too,
much, you know?
it's like, well, no, and I guess so. Maybe not so much the wholesomeness of the story that I identified with the most, but I did appreciate the weight of that drama that they show. Like just the story in general, it's worthy of a movie, I think. Like his story.
Yeah.
And it comes across well on screen. Like it's pretty deep. And what I liked is it's almost like a realistic look into how he deals with that. And it does have the wholesome element, but they don't shy away from like getting into the weeds of like when he's at the baseball game and he's talking to the firefighters there.
That's some heavy shit.
Yeah, and he's real blunt and direct about what's on his mind, and we won't spoil it, but stuff like that's really just like unapologetically real.
Yeah.
And
makes you uncomfortable.
That's something that I really liked about this movie.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It's hard to judge it in a negative way because it's something that's really personal to someone.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It does. I don't know. It's a weird mix of. It's a really weird mix of heavy and comedy that makes you a bit uncomfortable, I think. And I guess that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, like the tone of the film, it's hard to pinpoint, but it's a story, like you said, that I think a lot of different people can relate to. Either people that have lost parents, people that are suffering from depression or mental health disorders. I could see a film like this in terms of like trying to portray that in a realistic way. I can see a lot of people identifying with that.
Yeah,
and
maybe we're the outliers, right?
Yeah. I would say so. And I mean, the audience score was pretty good for this film on Rotten Tomatoes, 87.
Yeah, that's high.
But yeah, I mean, it's not poorly made. It's well directed. It's well cast, I thought. What in the first like 2/3 of the film did you have a favorite moment or a favorite scene? I know it's so hard. Like there are a bunch of little tiny pieces of comedy in the beginning or throughout the whole film that just make you laugh out loud.
My favorite scene is when Bill Burr gets introduced. And he's my favorite character in it. But the way they weave him into the plot, he's in it way more than I thought from seeing the preview.
Oh, yeah.
He's like got a much bigger role than...
I mean, he's like a main character.
Totally. But no, when Bill Burr gets introduced and he's all fired up because of a really funny, stupid situation. And I think we could say that because it's not giving away too much. But Pete Davidson fucking tattoos Bill Burr's son, and the kid's like, what, 9 years old?
Yeah, he's like this little badass. He's all, I want a tattoo. He's like, you want a tattoo? Like they're getting a kick out of him. This little like 7-year-old kid.
It's really
8-year-old
funny.
kid.
And when he comes into the thing, he's just in a total rage, screaming like a madman. And that's just, I love his character, and he's so funny. And he displayed some really, really, really impressive acting chops in this movie. Beyond, because I knew he was in Breaking Bad a bunch, and I knew he had acting chops, but he pulls off some pretty emotional scenes in this movie, and I was pretty impressed.
Dude, I saw him in Star Wars and The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And he does this serious role like really well. I'm surprised. He plays like this double crossing like smuggler dude in The Mandalorian.
Yeah. And he's
And,
one of the best stand-up comics of all time.
How long has he been doing it?
Oh, since like the 90s, like early 90s, I believe.
Oh, wow.
He's awesome, dude. Every one of his specials on Netflix is great. Every single one of them.
And he's still doing stand-up too?
Yeah, and he does F is for Family. That's like his creation on Netflix.
That's right. Yeah.
Rated R, hilarious cartoon.
Yeah.
Bill's awesome,
Yeah, no.
man. He has a fantastic podcast, too. He's hilarious.
Yeah, I've heard. What's crazy is I buy this guy as a firefighter.
Totally.
Like, especially with his handlebar. And, like, his demeanor in the whole movie. I totally buy him as a firefighter. But, yeah, I will say, in the beginning, like, he goes on his rant, and what is it, like 2 scenes later or something, that's when he goes back and knocks on the door again, and I'm like, oh, shit, we're doing this. So he's cashing in on that moment of passion that he had in the first scene.
It's got that cliche rom-com cheese, you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you liked the parts in the beginning. So the last third of the film I'm talking about, when Scott ends up getting in with like the firefighters. Is that the part you're talking about that didn't really connect for you?
I wouldn't say it didn't connect. I just was like,
Yeah.
I felt like you could have ended the movie a lot sooner.
Yeah.
It seemed to be there was like 30 minutes of the turnaround at the end of the
Mhm.
movie,
Yeah.
and that was like a little too long for me.
Yeah. I liked the dynamic of all the firefighters in the house, like when they're kind of shooting the shit with each other
Yeah.
and joking around and stuff like that. And like Steve Buscemi, I love Steve Buscemi. Like
Yeah.
at the end in the firefighting, like the firehouse. I don't know. I liked all those characters, and I don't know. We're kind of melding like character and story a little bit because it's hard not to with this film.
Yeah, because
But,
it's like a transition of
Yeah,
who
like
you
this film,
surround yourself with and how
it definitely isn't plot driven. It's like all character driven.
Yeah. And a big
Um,
part of him kind of getting his shit together is by changing who you're around with
Right.
and hanging out with people that have their shit together.
Yeah, like for me, and I think I can speak on this because I'm part of this generation, but like I felt that they portrayed every stereotype in the millennial generation possible in Scott's character.
Yeah.
I'm like, every bad thing you've ever heard of our generation, you see in this character. And I was just kind of like, I mean, I get there's, I know a bunch of people like that.
Oh,
But-
dude. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, like, and to the T.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane. So
Probably
I get
50, 60% of the dudes I grew up with in high school live this way still.
it. Oh, shit. Yeah.
Maybe not
Yeah.
with the extreme crime aspect.
Yeah,
But I do know some guys that done some pretty stupid shit.
Yeah. And like I'm looking at the poster right now of this film, and it's perfect. Like, yeah, I can't think of a better image to represent this film than the image on the poster. Like this guy, he's like taking a picture from a real low angle. He's larger than life in the sense that he's just completely out of his mind. And
it's kind of funny that the
and he's standing on top of a car, like,
yeah, it's extremely sarcastic, you know.
yeah,
It's like he becomes a king because he gets a job as a busboy,
yeah.
and that's like the triumph, you know.
Oh my god,
It's pretty fun. It's a pretty funny look. I've never been to New York or Staten Island.
yeah. I
But
wanted
it
to ask
has
you about
to hit
that.
home for like probably everybody on the Eastern Seaboard probably gets it way more than we do.
Yeah, okay, so because I've watched this, it's totally unrelated, but What We Do in the Shadows, like the TV show, that takes place on Staten Island too. And there's like this culture, I guess, in Staten Island that I'm completely foreign to. And they play that up in this movie. And I was wondering if you'd ever even heard of, like, just the Staten Island mystique at all. I'm like
Mystique?
totally free. Dude, like the
I
way
don't
they
know.
represent it in like What We Do in the Shadows on the show, this film, it's like Staten Island's this kind of, it's almost like a culture, like a lifestyle.
Yeah,
the way
I'm
they
sure
make it
it
seem.
is. You know, every place has its own
Yeah.
vibe, I guess. But the way it comes across and the way Pete Davidson talks about it, like in his stand-up and interviews, is just like the white trash stepchild of the rest of New York. You know.
Yeah.
It's funny. He mentions the dump. The dump in Staten Island must be like something to behold, because he mentions it all the time. He mentions it in this movie. He's mentioned it like on stand-up. I've seen him mention it a bunch of times.
Oh, wow.
And there's like probably tons of inside jokes that people who are aware of the culture in that area, whether they live in New Jersey, because it almost has like a Jersey Shore type of thing going on too.
Yeah, for sure. Any of our listeners out there, if you're calling in from the area, like, give us
Educate us.
Yeah, the lowdown on the culture, because it's like it comes across in everything that I've ever heard mentioned.
And it's funny.
Yeah, it seems
Even
like
not
bizarre.
knowing how realistic it is or not is really funny.
Well, I mean, you tell me stories about where you grew up,
Yeah.
and it seems to have like that kind of vibe going on. There's just like,
Yeah, it's a bit trashy.
well, I didn't mean it like that, but
It is.
but
But
it seems to be like people grow up there and stay there, and it's just
yeah,
you can't
it's a
escape
trap
it.
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Small town trap. It's you know, every small town. Really high drinking rates, really high indulging rates of all kind, but it's a sweet place to live. I don't know if Staten, I wouldn't want to live in any city. So it's like a bit of a different thing, but yeah, every place has their culture, and I'm sure it hits home for a lot of people on a lot of different levels. There's probably tons of inside jokes and stuff. I've only got the dump because I've heard him talk about it on multiple platforms, but
Okay, yeah.
yeah, there's probably tons of inside jokes and funny stuff that we just wouldn't get.
Yeah, I'm sure
If
we
you've
missed
never
a lot
been
of it.
there, you know, who knows?
I've never, yeah. I mean, I've certainly heard of Staten Island, but I just didn't know that it had kind of this, like, whole other persona.
I saw
It's like-
Wu-Tang a couple of years ago. They're from Staten Island.
Okay. Wu-Tang. What about, so I think for me, the big surprise of this film was Pete Davidson himself.
Okay.
Because, like, I've seen Bill Burr in other things, and he's pretty awesome as a serious actor. I thought he was awesome at Star Wars. Did you have any favorite characters in this film? Anyone that stuck out to you other than, like, the two main ones?
Pete Davidson was great. He's
Yeah.
actually a really impressive actor.
Yeah.
But what I really enjoyed was Marissa Tomei, Pete Davidson's mom
Yeah, she's awesome in everything
in the
she's
movie.
in.
Margie.
Yeah.
Her and Bill Burr's relationship on screen is what really, really caught me off guard. There's the scene where he first takes her out for coffee and he's like flirting with her and acting all Twitter pitted.
Yeah.
And I was just, I even paused the movie and turned to my lady. I was like, Bill's got some serious acting chops. Like, you seeing how realistic this like whole flirty vibe is?
Dude, that's
like,
not even acting. He's just flirting with Marissa Tomei, like, on camera.
It was so good, dude.
I'm sure it's not hard to do.
But I was that scene really caught me off guard. That's when I was like, oh shit, the acting in this movie is kind of next level.
She does a really good job of playing like the concerned motherly figure.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's Aunt May in the new Spider-Man films. Like,
Is she?
she's perfect in those roles.
I watched so much Seinfeld that's what I see her the most on. She's on one episode or something, and I see her on it in a cycle like every 2 months.
Seriously? Just on rerun?
Yeah, dude, I banged
You're like,
through.
oh yeah, she's in Seinfeld in that one episode.
Yeah, anytime I'm not doing or if I'm like doing dishes or doing stuff around the house, Seinfeld's just on all the time. And it's hilarious.
Yeah, she's great. I even like the actress that plays his sister, Kelsey. No, that's not Kelsey. Claire? Yes, Claire.
Oh, that's
it looks like she's an
Apatow's
Apatow.
daughter. She's a good
Yeah.
actor.
She's an Apatow. She does a really good job too. Like, I didn't see any weak performances in the film, I'll say that. But yeah, I really liked her relationship with Scott. What I liked is, okay, so you got the wholesomeness, but so she's concerned about her brother and her mom, but she's not afraid to just be like, stop fucking around and you're a piece of shit and you need to clean yourself up. Like, I like how their family's kind of like that.
Well, yeah, that's something that's very relatable, you know, like siblings.
For sure.
Siblings need to check
Yeah.
each
And
other way more than parents do, because if parents go overbearing, then you get backlash.
Right.
And you know what I mean? It's much easier to scream at a sibling than,
Sure.
you know what I'm saying?
Like, that's that realistic
Yeah.
element of the story too that I think is really, really well done. And then I liked the two kids, Ray's kids, that Scott takes on walks every day to school. Like, they're you got like the sweet daughter and then the little badass kid, his son. And I liked anytime you have, especially a really messed up character in the film like Scott, and you have him interact with like young children on screen, those are always like money for me in any film.
Okay.
Like, it's just always interesting to see those interactions. For me, like, that humanized Scott's character a lot for me. Like, it made him, instead of being completely like in space and out of this world for me, it brought him back down to reality for me. Where I like I understood the pain and shit he went through, but the way he treated the two kids really kind of made me like his character a lot.
Okay.
So yeah, that's another part of like the wholesomeness that I bought into.
Yeah. Yeah, and that part, all that was nice. I really liked all of the character play between him and his buddies,
Yeah.
Oscar and Richie and Igor.
Igor is my favorite.
Yeah. You gotta love the little dude, right?
Yeah, man. I can relate.
Yeah, dude, the little guy. But
And I like how he has the hottie on his dating app and she's real.
I know.
That was a payoff for me in the whole film. I was like, yes, justice for Igor.
But there's so many hilarious lines between all of them
Yeah.
as the movie goes on. Ricky Velez plays Oscar, Lou Wilson plays Richie, and Moises Arias plays Igor.
Yeah.
They're all super funny. It's a great part of the movie from like a comedy standpoint. Like, every time they're all on screen, it's hilarious. Even at the end of the movie, when it's kind of like wrapping shit up, when Ricky Velez is talking about what Pete has to feed his cat,
Oh, yeah.
I was laughing so hard at that part of the movie. It was
Yeah.
great.
Oh shit. Yeah, there's so many like spread out little nuggets of comedy that are just like I don't know.
It's
They're
paced
all over the
perfectly
place.
with the comedy, you know, like there's some
Yeah.
heaviness, but even inside the heavy scenes there's jokes.
Yeah, the other thing I like too is that the comedy is not over the top like insane slapstick stuff.
No.
It's all like one-liners and clever dialogue and just shit you would like laugh at with your friends.
Yeah, and there's never like a big pause for laughter. They're just
No.
in mid conversation, all weaved in there really nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
My my favorite part of the movie from a comedy standpoint is when Bill Burr yells at his son to look both ways going over the road.
Oh yeah.
And then when Pete is picking up the kids
Uh-huh.
and they go outside, Bill Burr's ex-wife screams to look both
Yeah.
ways. That was like my favorite part of the entire movie.
Yeah. I know. It's
so funny.
it's got a good pace to it, like overall. With the comedy and the drama. Like even when it gets real heavy, it never gets to the point where it's overbearing or it's like fatiguing, I guess. I hate those dramatic films where it's so serious that it just doesn't make you feel good, like you don't want to watch anymore. It's like, well, shit, I could just go outside and experience this myself. I don't want to sit down and watch this.
Yeah.
It never gets that serious, but it tackles a heavy subject, I think.
Yeah, I was a little done by about 2 hours.
Yeah, it is long.
You know, I was done with the triumph at about 2 hours.
Sure, yeah.
But there's still some chuckles in there towards the end. Like I said, that one scene. That's like
Yeah.
right towards the end of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe not. No, I actually think that might be before. Anyway.
Oh, in the jail?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually before he gets into the firehouse, I think.
Yeah, right after that is like when he went to the firehouse, I was like, that's when I was about. I was about
Yeah.
done with it at that point.
Yeah. Before we move on, though, I will say that I was surprised that they ended it on the moment, on that particular moment in the film, or that circumstance. Like, when they're both in the truck, and he's like, go get him.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I was expecting him to, like, take a test or something to be a fireman or something. And instead it's something else. And I was like, okay, they went there. That's cool. But it wasn't, I guess, out of left field just because of, like...
It's just a cheese, man.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything.
Don't try and explain the cheese.
Just eat the cheese.
Just eat the cheese and enjoy it.
Yeah, put the cheese on your cracker.
Be happy that you chuckled and eat the cheese.
Yeah, I ate the cheese.
I'll just say, if you watch the movie and you know it's a Judd Apatow movie, you know exactly how it ends. I'll just say that.
All right. I guess that's fair. All right, what about... Let's talk a little bit about the techie stuff, the technical filmmaking elements of this movie. I will say that I noticed in the cinematography, it feels like a documentary.
A little bit.
Like the way it's shot. You get a lot of the handheld stuff. And a little bit of like steady cam, shaky cam kind of footage. But in this film, it works. Because you almost feel like you're just following a group of friends around. Like a group of friends and the main character around. And you really feel like you're in the room with everybody.
Yeah, it didn't feel very set-y at all.
No.
You know?
No.
It all seemed to be on location. I really liked a lot of the outdoor shots. Like when they were playing basketball in the abandoned orphanage on the 8-foot rim.
Well, that's the other thing, too. It seems like everything was shot on Staten Island.
Probably.
Everything felt real. Like, even the interior shots, those... I mean, it seemed like a real house. I never thought once that it could be a set, maybe, even though it probably was. But everything looked like it matched really well and looked realistic. Because I think Staten Island itself is kind of like a character in the film.
Yeah. Yeah,
really
that's a good
does.
point. It would make sense to have shot it there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Pete, being from there, would want to dump some of that money into his economy, right?
Yeah.
Seems
I'm sure
like a
he
good
wasn't
dude.
like, let's go shoot in Long Beach.
It does not
yeah.
look like Long.
Yeah.
Let's go look at it.
That is bizarre, though, to look like across the pond and see like the New York City skyline.
Yeah, there was what was it? There was a shot at one point where it had the city in the background. It was like a dusk shot.
Was that during the baseball game?
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
And that it was like it was kind of cool to see New York from a angle I've never seen before.
Yeah, me too.
Again, it's really hard to relate
Yeah, it is.
being from out west, and
I mean, I've grown up in California like 90% of my life.
it doesn't look anything. I lived out east as a wee tot, south of here, and outside of Philadelphia. But yeah, it's hard. I don't know if I've ever even been to a place that has this type of like I don't know what it's called, like townhousey
Oh, yeah, for sure.
type of thing.
Yeah, uh-huh. With like the porches and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't even ever know if I've like been in a neighborhood that looks like that in my whole life.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And like the shots on the bench, the old like trash bench out by the beach. I
Yeah.
really liked a lot of those because it has
Yeah.
that like just hanging out vibe. Like it
has, like-
feels really real, you know?
It does. And when you say like quote unquote beach, it looks kind of trashy, like the way they show it on camera. It's like I said, Staten Island has kind of like this vibe about it, I guess, that I know nothing about.
As far as I think it probably looks exactly like that life, you know?
Yeah.
I think that whole aspect of the movie is kind of hard for me to gauge whether or not it's accurate. But if I had to guess, I would
Yeah.
say it's super accurate.
Yeah, and I mean, it definitely seems like blue collar for sure, like that whole area. But yeah, it was just refreshing to see a film take place in like the general New York area, but not be a New York film.
Yeah.
It's not one of those New York films. This is like something different. In a good way, though.
Yeah, it has a definitely way more like a gritty, way less glamorous New York vibe to it.
Yeah. This is total random, off the wall, like side comment, but the whole time I was watching this film, I was like, Pete Davidson would be a kick-ass Joker.
Hey.
Yeah, like
I like that.
yeah.
Huh.
And I don't know why, but yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm looking at his mannerisms as he's acting on screen, and he seems like he has a couple screws loose at times in this film. And yeah, this dude I think would be an awesome Joker.
I'll get on that train, dude. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Maybe. But we'll see. I mean, if he keeps this up, he'll be on his way to films like that, I think. He's a good actor.
Yeah, it's he's an interesting dude, man. His whole story is insane. Not just the tragedy of his childhood, but
Yeah.
his Hollywood story, which isn't highlighted at all in this movie.
Mhm.
But like his fame story of comedy and SNL and all the hot chicks that he's dated. He's an interesting cat, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Fucking Kate Beckinsale.
Oh my
Fucking
god.
champ, dude.
Yeah, where was that in the movie? Where was her cameo?
That's
Yeah.
that's the sequel.
Yeah, that's when they move on over from Staten Island to New York City. Man, yeah.
I don't
Thanks
know
for
if
bringing
there
that
was
up.
any special.
Jeez.
Actually, no, there was some pretty good effects in the movie. Now that I think about it, some of the explosions with the fire and stuff.
Oh yeah,
Those are
that
actually
was,
really good.
and scary. The way they shot him,
Yeah.
it was pretty intense. I really liked that. Yeah, firefighter. I could never be a firefighter. Too much of a pansy.
Yeah, it's funny. Like firefighters around here is a whole nother animal.
Oh yeah,
It's a whole different thing. It's like not the ladders in the buildings. It's the forest and
yep,
the helicopters, and
for sure.
it's crazy.
It definitely gets seasonal out here too.
See,
But
that
yeah.
season's getting bigger every year, bro.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can't say a whole lot about the cinematography or like look of the film. It all meshes well together.
No, it's
And
all.
I like the way they shot Staten Island overall. They framed it well.
It's tip top. You know. That's
Yeah,
why
for sure.
That's why Apatow's
He's been doing it forever.
He's a total badass, total fucking professional. You know, like it is. You won't be disappointed with one shot in the movie. You know.
No. Well made.
I really like the pharmacy scene.
Yeah, that whole sequence.
Yeah.
What
And-
was the
And
the phrase he wanted to text?
you up.
Yeah, you.
But then when their phones start going off and the songs that are playing for each one of them,
Yeah.
it's really
like they
funny.
match their characters really well
It's
too.
Extremely funny.
And they're trying to be quiet and their phones are going off. Yeah. See, after talking about it, I could probably give this film another watch.
Yeah.
It is-
So
it
if
is
you
long.
take it, if you take it for a drama with a deep message, there's that there, but that's not for everybody. But
Right.
that's not for me, you know. But
Mhm.
what is there for me is the intense layer cake of jokes that are throughout the entire movie. So if you take it
For
just
sure.
for that and you accept the cheese, because even if you even lots of Apatow's older movies where I don't like how they ended necessarily,
Yeah.
I'll still
Mhm.
watch them again, because once I realize they end where I think they're going to end, then I can just enjoy the jokes. And this movie is probably funnier
Yeah.
every time you watch it.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. And like I'll say it, there were a lot of moments where I laughed out loud.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm not myself the biggest comedy fan, and so it's hard for me to do that. So the comedy works in this movie really well when it's there.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great, and it's there most of the movie. I don't want to play it down too much because it's almost. I guess it's almost like a dark comedy.
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
even
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of the really dark stuff that Pete says throughout the movie is
Yeah.
a joke still, and it's still pretty funny.
Yeah, for sure.
It's weird. It really blurs the lines between dark and comedy the whole time. You know, the whole movie does.
Yeah, well that's the thing too, like with these films, there's always the risk if you're reading this on the page, there's always that risk of it being overly dramatic and too heavy. And you never get that in this movie. Like the comedy is so evenly spread out that it saves you from that.
Yeah.
And it
even,
works well.
Even the ending with the cheese, it's still a really funny ending and ironic.
Yeah.
Not one part of the story, but the other part of the story, like his struggle
Uh-huh.
and getting out of it. The way that ends is still like laughable, you know?
Yeah. No, for sure. What about the music going on in the movie?
I
a
enjoyed
lot-
it.
Yeah, it all matches like perfectly with what's going on screen.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. There wasn't one part where I don't think I had any like major orchestral stuff going on.
No, not at all.
And that
a
would
lot
have
of it
really
too.
made it bad. That would have really taken away from the comedy if you put like cheese orchestra music in there.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put orchestra music. I wouldn't add that to the cheese. That's it's a little too sharp for me. But there was a lot of diegetic music, like the music he's listening to in the car. Like you'll bump, and it's bumping out through the speakers.
Yeah. Like even that first scene, right? Doesn't he have the stereo up real loud?
Yeah.
Yeah, that shit's intense. I like that a lot
Mm-hmm.
in movies when it's diegetic.
Yeah, for sure. And you get a lot of that in this film, and it keeps the story real. Like, you're experiencing the moments with the characters, and yeah, adding diegetic stuff in this movie is totally complements that.
It's funny,
yeah,
like Pete Davidson's real life story is way more insane than this movie.
Yeah. What was this movie rated? Was it?
I think it's R. It's got to be R.
Oh yeah, it's rated R.
Yeah, they're banging and shit in it. It's got to be R.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a wholesome R, I guess.
Well, I appreciate that it's R. If it was PG-13, I would have really not been stoked. I don't want to see PG-13 Bill Burr and Pete Davidson, dude.
Yeah, I don't think you can see PG-13 Bill Burr and Pete Davidson.
I love Pete on SNL because he pushes the shit that he can say like way more than anybody else on the show. I don't know. Michael Che and Jost are both really good, but Davidson definitely pushes it the farthest.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, it works. It works with what they're selling here in the film. I can't remember even watching a trailer for this. Did you watch the trailer?
Yeah.
Did they market it as like a straight up comedy?
No, I think they let you know it's a little heavy in the
Okay.
trailer, from what I remember.
Yeah. I can't stand films where they sell you something and then serve you up something completely different.
Sell you a Roman legion and give you a guy running in a Bigfoot suit.
Yeah, give you like Cool Runnings Part 2. Like,
Dude, Cool Running. Don't do that to Cool Runnings, man. That movie's awesome.
I love Cool Runnings.
Don't do that
It's
to that.
the only film I can think of with like. What other running films are there? Good God.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're still shitting on that movie 3 episodes later.
that movie sucked, man. God,
Oh man.
so bad.
Yeah, let's not bring up a bad memory.
All right, dude. Let's do love hates.
All right. I will say that I loved the characters in this movie. They're all interesting, they're complex, they're real. And I love me some real characters in movies. People that I can maybe not so much relate to, but I could at least see other people relating to. And watching it, I was definitely in the back of my mind, I'm like, I know so many people that fit into this story with just all kinds of different elements. So for me, I liked the realism through the characters in the film. Hates, not so much hate, but like the ending's kind of predictable. The arc is a little predictable. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of one of those feel-good stories, I guess, in the end.
Yeah.
And I mean, for all the shit that happens to Scott in the film, it's like, I guess you can't really blame them for taking it that way. But yeah, for me, it was just a little predictable.
All right.
Yeah, what about you?
I loved and appreciated the quantity and the quality of jokes.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Just coming at you every scene. There's a couple of laughers in there, even with the heavy. The whole movie. That's what I love the most about it. And Bill Burr, he's awesome. He's hilarious and everything. And he really, really impressed me with some serious acting in this movie.
Yeah.
That scene when they're like, when they're battling and he throws them in the pool and shit. I was laughing so hard that whole time.
Yeah.
It was great.
Because I got something that'll cool you off.
And what I hated about the movie was the same as you, man. It's just you know exactly where it was going with the cheese.
Yeah,
Nothing really slapped you in the face, caught you off guard.
right.
That's what I wouldn't say hate. I didn't hate anything about the movie.
Yeah, me either.
Truly, you know. It's a classic Apatow. It fits in perfectly with all of his other funny movies.
Yeah, for sure. I think we're in agreement. So, what do you give this movie on your scale? And would you recommend it at the end?
I will give it 3 1/4 bong loads.
Okay.
Just because everything about the way it's made and all the acting and the casting is great. The story's a bit predictable and a bit too wholesome for my liking in a comedy. So I'll knock down. But I can't complain on a technical aspect of anything. It's just the arc of the story and where it goes, and the fact that you know it's going there. What did I do? 3 1/4 or just 3?
3 1/4.
3 1/4 bong loads. Yeah, and I would recommend it. Maybe wait for it to be a little cheaper on rental in a couple of weeks. I don't know about $20. They're probably making out like bandits, dude. $20. That's more than you pay, like literally, if you go in the theater. So.
Oh yeah, I mean at the rate they're releasing movies right now, people would eat this up for $20.
Yeah, they're probably making a killing. So.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but again, it is $20. Like you'll spend that at the gas station, walking down
for
one
sure.
aisle. So, you be the judge.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's worth a watch. And if you are going to pay the $20, you might as well buy it because it's the same price. Because the rewatch value on this movie is probably awesome.
Yeah. Good point. For me, I'm gonna give this a 3.5. 3.5 buckets of popcorn for me. I think there are a lot of different people that can get something out of this movie. And it's funny, it's entertaining, so I definitely recommend it. For $20, I probably wouldn't recommend it. I would say you could probably wait till this is streaming somewhere, unless you're a fan of Judd Apatow or Bill Burr or Pete Davidson. Like
Any of these comics, Ricky Velez, it's hilarious.
For sure. I mean, Steve Buscemi's in this, Marissa Tomei. Like the cast is really good, and the characters are all really interesting and funny. So. Yeah, I guess, I mean, give it your best judgment, but it is $20 to rent. Unfortunately, I mean, we can't go to the theaters anymore. Not yet, and I don't see us going anytime soon. So,
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
We all have, like, people that we know that we grew up with, whether it's in our family or friends or whatever, that kind of have this, like, can't get their shit together thing going on.
Uh-huh.
Do you think you project any of the feelings you have about whoever those people are that you know growing up or have known through life onto a movie like this? And you be like, oh, that's my buddy, blah, blah, blah. Do you, like, project any of that?
Oh, I
Like,
mean,
carry
I think it's,
any of that emotional baggage of what you have of someone you know that doesn't have their shit
oh,
together?
to like color my
Or
my opinion
died
of
of
the
a
film.
drug or overdose or whatever, you know?
Yeah, no. And so, yeah, for sure. Like, to answer your question, yeah, for sure.
Because I feel like it conjures up feelings of this, like, archetype of this, you know, kind of loser that can't get their shit together. And
Yeah,
it probably makes you think of stuff that has nothing to do with the movie. Because it did that for me.
Oh, it absolutely did that for me. And it did it for me so much to the point where, like, the first third of the movie, I was like, I don't know if I can watch this because this dude's pissing me off, because I know someone exactly like this. I know people exactly like this in my own life.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I go back to all those scenes with him and the two kids, because for me, that brings a likable quality to his character, and you see that he's not a complete, like, asshole loser. And that's important. I mean,
But I
it's-
got a follow-up to that.
all right.
But does it piss you off a little bit that, like, the turnaround is literally like having to walk some kids to school every day? Like, literally just having one thing to do everything every day changes everything?
Yeah, well then that's my 3.5 star or 3.5 buckets of popcorn. Like, I can't give this film any higher than that.
Okay.
Because that plot, it's like, it's there and it's his arc, but yeah, the turn happens so easily and so fast. It's like I almost kind of don't buy it.
Yeah. It's like you could have replaced walking the kids to school with having Bill Burr just make his bed and clean his room every day.
Yeah, looking at the classifieds in the newspaper.
Or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Or having to take the trash out or something.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a minor task that
Yeah, I
turns
know.
everything around. That's where
Holy
it's like,
shit.
come on, there couldn't be a bit more
Dude.
struggle in there.
Dude, that's like the millennial bar. Like, it's so low. Thanks for pointing that out. Thanks for pointing out that we are just as bad.
Oh, wait, dude, I've had my shit together since I was
No.
18.
No, I mean, like, oh my God, like the bar is so low. It's like,
Yeah, that's funny.
We shouldn't be given a pass, but
Maybe that's
it
a
is
joke.
what it is.
Maybe that's a really deeply seated joke in the movie. And I
Maybe
guess
that's
it
the
is,
point of
you
this.
know?
Maybe that's the point. It's like, this dude needs to get his act together. You guys need to raise your bar. And, like, come on. Oh, shit. Damn, excellent point.
And it's like, the thing why it makes me mad a little bit is like, most of the people that I know that are either still living this kind of lifestyle or have died from it or, you know, have broken out of it. It didn't take a simple task of like one chore a day to pull them out of their funk, you know?
Yeah. And, like, you can't... That takes a whole lifetime, often, like, a lot of the time, you know, for people to get their act together.
Yeah.
You couldn't possibly do that in... I mean, maybe that's why the film's almost 2.5 hours, because they're like, we have to turn them in 2.5 hours. But, yeah, that's where the story is problematic. That's why I can't give this film much higher than that, because it does happen quick. It's 2.5 hours, but it feels like it happens instantly, where he starts to become, like, human. Or, like, a somewhat responsible member of society.
Yeah, it's too quick of a shift.
Yeah.
It goes from like full-blown psychotic, suicidal punk kid to responsible adult like that.
Right. Yeah. No, that's
I wouldn't
that's
say
an
that
excellent point.
responsible, but a little bit, you know?
Yeah, like not tattooing 7-year-olds responsible. Like that's and that's a win for this character. And we'll take it. We'll take the cheese.
Yeah.
So moral of the story, don't tattoo 7-year-olds.
I think he's
And
9.
everything will... All right, well, don't tattoo 9-year-olds. No matter how badass they seem. And you'll be all right. You'll be half decent.
It's a funny movie. It's got some cheese, though.
Oh, man. That was like an excellent point. Man, I love our podcast.
It made me think about like a lot of dudes that I've grown up with.
It's hard not to see people you know like that
Yeah.
as you're watching the film.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I'm right there with you. That totally happened to me.
Yeah, I wish I just had some kids for them to walk to school to pull them out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
No kids.
No kids. No kids, and definitely no tattooing the ones that are there.
Yes.
Public safety announcement brought to you by 2 millennials.
I don't know. I don't like the whole millennial. I don't get the generation designations that much. It's way
I don't
too
even
generalizing
understand-
because I don't feel entirely in this mold.
Me either.
You know, I'm like a decade
Yeah.
older than this.
Yeah, you and I both. Like, I don't know. I don't even know what that means anymore, millennial.
Who fucking cares?
Well, they make a joke of that in the film.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like, they're
he
talking
makes
about the kid.
I've said that exact same thing to my friends
Yeah.
before because they're
He's like, fucking
rattling
millennials.
shit off about how stupid
Yeah.
millennials are. I was like, dude, we're millennials. Right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't fucking
Yeah.
get it. It's so dumb to
basically
generalize a block of
Yeah.
years on a calendar.
It's just like anyone you don't agree with these days is a millennial. So that's...
And what I don't like about the movie is the smoking weed stereotype.
Oh.
You know, that everyone smoking weed doesn't have their shit together. It's like, that ain't true at all.
That isn't true.
The state that we live in probably has 10 or 20 million people that smoke weed on a daily basis and have their shit together.
Yeah, some of them even have their shit together so much they make podcasts.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Don't be stereotyping us stoners.
Yeah. Yeah, not to toot our own whistle, but...
And at 24, I have my shit together.
Yeah, no. I mean, you
What this
definitely were
movie-
not...
What this movie is set at, you know? I was still smoking weed, and
For sure.
plenty of people
Well,
smoke weed. It's not a big
I
deal.
definitely wasn't thinking about you watching this film, that's for sure.
No,
Yeah,
but
a lot of
dude,
other people, though.
A lot of the people I grew up with, hits home,
Yeah.
you know?
A lot of people. But yeah, I think we got some good discussion out of this one.
Yeah, I think
milked it
we
pretty
brought it around at the end there. I was
Yeah, for
stumbling
sure.
a bit. I'm a little drunk.
No worries. It keeps it fun. Keeps it real. If that's all you have, I don't really have much else to say about The King of Staten Island.
Yeah, it's good. It's worth a watch. It's funny.
Yeah. So
Funny. If you're
if
gonna,
you have the time,
yeah, if you're gonna buy it or if you're gonna pay for it, buy it instead of rent it because it's funny.
yeah. So you got to recommend from Drew and El Toddo. But for us here, that's been episode 27, and we will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for sticking around.
Peace.